back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie, and we've got a show for you today. First topic we'll be going over is predicting the East standings for the MLB, so AL East and NL East, then going over to the National League, then going over to the National League and American League Central, then the National League and American League West, then finally topping it off with my playoff predictions. Now, I wanted to do all this because there's not much going on in baseball right now, as it is the All-Star break, and with it officially being the end of the first half going into the second half now, I thought it was fitting to try to predict what the rest of the season would happen and just overall what is going to happen. So, before we do all that, though, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers to ensure that your question does get read in the air. Please do the link at gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so first topic is going to be about the East and just predicting these standings. Now, the reason I separated it to AL and NL East and then AL and NL Central, you get the idea, is just because I wanted to be able to fully talk about all this. I thought I wouldn't have really enough time to talk about just AL East and NL East, just the American League and the National League, so I did want to split it up into 3 segments instead of 2, and that's the reason I have it split up this way. So first topic will be, of course, about the American League and the National League East, so let's get into it. So we are going to start off with the National League East, and this is just going to be what I think the 5 in the division will be, what the ranking will be, so all that. So we'll start from 5 to 1, so here we go. Number 5, I of course have the Miami Marlins. No surprises here, the Marlins are an awful team this year and are going to continue to get worse at the deadline. Tanner Scott looks like he's locked to be traded. I'd say he's the biggest lock of the entire deadline, and Jazz Chisholm as well looks like he's going to be gone from Miami Marlins uniform. Other than that, they may trade some bullpen arms as well, and just overall, this team is not going to be looking good after the trade deadline and also for the foreseeable future as well. They're currently one of the worst teams in baseball already, and trading everyone of value on this team anyways, I think they're going to continue to get a lot worse, and overall, it's going to be really, really bad right now if you are Marlins fans. So, yeah, it's not going to be great for them, and they're going to continue to get pretty significantly worse, and really no surprises there that they should be 5th here going back into the second half of the season. Number 4, I am going to be having the Washington Nationals. Now, the Nationals aren't a bad team, but I just simply thought there were 3 better teams than them in this division. The Nationals, as I've said multiple times on this show, I really think next year is their year. This year they have a ton of good players, but I really think next year when every single person is up mostly, you get to develop some people, you have money to spend, Patrick Corbin's money is coming off your books, so I think we'll be much better next year. I mean, you're going to have Robert Hassel and Dylan Cruz up in the outfield with James Wood, who's already there. You're going to have a full starting rotation of Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, some other guys I'm forgetting as well. So this national team looks like it's going to be really fantastic with the future. But for this year, I don't really foresee anything amazing happening. So I do end up having them here at number 4. But again, bright future. Just I think they got to wait another year for it really to see the fruits of their riches. Number 3, I have, of course, the New York Mets. The Mets have had an incredible just turnaround this season. Started off 22-33, now are 3 games above 500 and in a wild card spot as we speak. So just the turnaround's been fantastic, and I don't really see that stopping in the second half. I think there is a world where the Nationals take over from the Mets, but at the same time, I do think this Mets team is genuinely good, and you'll see where I put them when we have the playoff predictions part of this segment. I think this Mets rotation is very solid. It's going to get better with the ace Kodai Senga coming back. So adding into that rotation, you also have the possibility of calling up one of your top prospects, Brendan Sproat, who is going to come up from the minor leagues at some point this year, I would assume. After that, the lineup is going to continue to slam, in my opinion. I mean, Francisco Alvarez, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos, Harrison Bader, Starling Marte, JD Martinez. I don't really see anyone there that I think is going to have a full drop-off in a way that significantly impacts the team. So overall, I do think that this Mets team is very good, are going to continue to play very good. It'll probably be second in any other division but the NL East just because of how much talent there is in this division, which you'll see with the number 2 and number 1 spots. So number 2, I am going to be having the Atlanta Braves, of course. Now, the Braves are still a very solid team, but of course not as good as we've seen before. The injuries to Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna Jr. have really destroyed their depth, in my opinion, and as much as they still are a very good team, they're not as good as we expected. I mean, most people had them first in the NL East by a long shot. I did as well, but it looks to be likely now that they are not going to win the NL East simply because not only of how significant these injuries have been, but also how good the Phillies have been. This Phillies team has been absolutely fantastic, and we'll be talking about them next, of course, but this Braves team is still very good, just the injuries have really affected them, and the way the Phillies have just consistently been fantastic this entire year, I really do think that it is their time for the Braves to be not fighting for a not fighting for the NL East crown, but for fighting for a wild card spot now. Finally, of course, the number one, it's the Philadelphia Phillies. I said it, but it had to be true with process of elimination, I'd say. So with this Phillies team, every good thing you can say about them, I think, is right. They're just absolutely fantastic. The amount of pitching depth they have is truly incredible. They have 5 above-average starters, which is really hard. They have Taijuan Walker, who's a 6th man in the rotation when everyone's healthy, I'd say, and he's getting paid a ton of money. So that's crazy. The lineup has so many all-stars with JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Alec Bohm, Kyle Schwarber, and Castellanos. Just so many fantastic, fantastic players on this team. And they are truly incredible, having an amazing, amazing year. Everything's finally come together for them, not only in the playoffs, but in the regular season as well. And yeah, just really have an incredible season and have shown already this year, I'd say, that they are the best team in the National League and maybe even the best team in all baseball. So, moving on to the American League East here, we got again starting from 5 to 1 and then going over it. So, number 5 here, we have the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, what a disappointing season this Blue Jays team has had, and to be honest with you, I think it's going to continue. I think they're going to be pretty massive sellers at this deadline, trading everyone with 1 or 2 years left on that contract. Yusei Kikuchi is someone I think is definitely going to be traded. Justin Turner, I would say as well. I think they try to move off George Springer's contract as well, even though I think his contract's pretty immovable. If they could even go harder and try to trade Kevin Gausman, but I don't think that would be likely, considering he still is a very good pitcher. They could even do the unthinkable and trade Vladdy Jr., which is possible. But overall, I do think that the Blue Jays are heading towards a rebuild. This really disappointing season, I think, has put them in a place they did not want to be at, and yeah, that's why they ended up here at number 5 in this division. Overall, I don't really think they're that bad of a team. I just think that 4 teams are better than them in the AL East because of how good this division is and the way they are trending towards the trade deadline. I do think that it is time for them to kind of blow this team up, blow the score up a little bit, and kind of move on from some players. Number 4, I have the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays, like the Blue Jays, have had a pretty disappointing season and are trending to be sellers for the deadline. The level of what kind of sellers they will be, I think, very much varies. There's a lot of people who think they could absolutely explode this team, trading Randy Arozarena, Isaac Paredes, Pete Fairbanks, one of their big starting pitchers, or they could just trade, guys on 1 or 2 year deals who aren't immediate parts of their future, like a guy like Zach Eflin, Zach Littell as well, and some other guys in the lineup as well that I think aren't exactly major parts of their future. Also like Ahmed Rosario, who both all have value but aren't huge parts of this team that are franchise icons like a Paredes, like an Arozarena. So overall, I just think the Rays were kind of doomed going into this year when you had the whole Wander Franco situation, when you had Shane McClanahan getting hurt, Jeffrey Springs getting hurt at the end of last year. Both will be out the entirety of this year. I just think that it was not a great year for the Rays, and that is why they are going to be 4th in this division. Still a very talented team, but I think there's 3 teams better than them significantly, and unfortunately, with all the injuries and the situations that have happened, I just can't put them any higher than this. Number 3, I have the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox have been one of the most surprising teams of the entire year, and I don't really think it stops in the second half. I do think naturally they are just going to have some regression. I don't think guys on their team are going to have as great a first half as they had, but I also think they're still going to be good. Like Tanner Houck, I don't think he's going to continue the amazing season he's having, but I still think he's going to end up being a very solid, good player for this Red Sox team, so I don't think it would exactly be so crazy. So, I do expect some regression, but overall, I do think this is a very solid team. I think Connor Wong's here to stay. I think Jaron Durant is going to be a good player. You, of course, have Rafi Devers on this offense as well. Dom Smith proven to be a viable replacement, where Willie Abreu has been very solid out there in the outfield in his rookie season. So now Rafael has also been very solid whenever position he plays. So overall, this Red Sox team still has a ton of talent, and even though I do expect some regression, I think they'll still end up being a very solid team. 2, I'm going to be having the New York Yankees. Of course, 2 and 1, we all knew it was either going to be the Orioles or the Yankees. I did end up picking the Yankees, but because I do think they have more flaws than the Orioles. Simply put, I think the Yankees have to get, if they really want to compete, really want to win a World Series, I'd honestly say they have to get 2 infielders and 2 relief pitchers. I just don't know if that's going to happen, and the lineup depth on them is really a question mark. And I think their pitching, with the injuries that have happened, is continuing to get a little worse. So overall, I still think this Yankees team is fantastic because they have Aaron Judge, they have Juan Soto, they have Garrett Cole. But, the core around those guys is a question mark, and it is something I'm going to be watching for the rest of the season. finally, in first place, of course, the Baltimore Orioles. Obviously the Orioles going to be in first place. The Yankees were in second place, and the Orioles team is absolutely fantastic. They have a really great frontline starters, a really fantastic bullpen, a really great lineup, and just a fantastic team that, of course, is going to be at the top of the AL East. So, recapping this, for the NL East, I have the Philadelphia Phillies at 1, the Atlanta Braves 2, Mets 3rd, Nationals 4th, Marlins 5th, American League East, Orioles 1, Yankees 2, Red Sox 3, Rays 4, Blue Jays 5. That is the first segment here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment, which is going to be talking about some Central standings predictions. And just going over that, doing the American League Central and the National League Central, which we, of course, just did for the East, but American League and National League, of course. So, talk about that, and we'll see you after the break. So, thanks, and bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a